Why are Democrats and the media still protecting Joe Biden even now? What do they possibly have to gain from it? I mean, obviously, Democrats are going to be biased towards Democrats, but the media specifically. And I think that this is the right opportunity for them to do something about it, but they probably won't. So let's talk about that. All right, first, some key events from the past couple of weeks. We have a few things going on in Joe Biden news. We have the Original Sin book by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson of CNN and Axios, respectively, about the White House cover-up and the links that the White House went to cover up Biden's mental decline. And it doesn't talk a lot about the media in the book, but it talks a lot about his family, Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, and the aides around him and how they isolated him and kept even his cabinet level members away from him to not be able to see this decline. Okay. So that's what the book is about. It's made a huge splash. Everyone's talking about it. Not great news for the Biden team, right? And then we have the Robert Hur interview with Joe Biden, the audio of those being released. I about said audio tapes. I'm sure they weren't actually recorded to magnetic tape because I'm old, but the point is, Robert Hur interviewed Joe Biden about classified documents that were found at his Delaware home and some other places. And we had the transcript from that, but we never had the audio. Congress tried to get them to release the audio. Well, we finally got the audio, also on Axios. And it's not a good look for Joe Biden. It makes Robert Hur's it certainly vindicates Robert Hur in the sense that when he called Joe Biden an elderly man with memory issues, everyone sort of jumped on him and said he was partisan and this was a hack. And turns out maybe that was generous to Joe Biden. The audio is not good.
Trump gets elected in November of 2017? 2016. All right. So, why do I have 2017 here?
That's when you left office, January of 2017.
Yeah, okay.
In the midst of all this, Joe Biden finds out allegedly on a Friday that he has stage 4 prostate cancer and announces it on Sunday, conveniently the week before this book comes out by Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson. Everyone on the right immediately goes to, do we really believe that he only got a stage 4 prostate cancer with metastasized to his bones? This last week, this is something that doctors said this about this kind of cancer.
Doesn't it take some time for prostate cancer to develop to a point where it would spread to the bones?
Oh, he's had this for many years, maybe even a decade, growing there and spreading. That's right.
Everyone on the right, of course, doesn't believe the timing of this is anything other than convenient for Joe Biden. When all the press is bad about Joe Biden, he comes out with a personal tragedy story. This is a normal thing for him, okay? So we're skeptical that he actually got diagnosed because that would require you to believe that one of two things happened, okay? If he really only got the diagnosis in the last couple of weeks of stage 4 cancer that had metastasized to his bones that he'd had for years, up to a decade potentially, okay? You'd have to believe that the doctors that we have serving the president of the United States are so bad they couldn't catch that, okay? That's a problem for me, okay? That would be worth investigating, right? So if you believe the cancer diagnosis came this late, we need to start looking at Walter Reed Medical Center. We need to start looking at the doctors. We need to go, how did you all not catch this? And maybe there is a good explanation for it. We know that Biden was not taking the PSA, the sort of prostate level blood test that you do to see if you've got elevated levels that would lead them to believe you have prostate cancer. And it is true that they don't recommend people over the age of 70 take that because generally if you get diagnosed with prostate cancer later than that, it's not the thing that's going to kill you. It's something else that's going to kill you before it does. But the point being, this is not a normal human being over the age of 70. This is the president of the United States. I would think we would do every single blood test you possibly could to make sure that he has a clean bill of health. Okay. So either way, we need to look into that if you really believe the narrative that he didn't get this diagnosis for the last couple of weeks. But if you're like me and you're skeptical, then the other option would be that there's a cover up and that he actually knew he had this cancer and maybe just wanted to hide it from people. And who knows who knew that? But my point is Democrats and the media, on the left-leaning media specifically, that have taken such a hit from the last decades of coverage and protection of Democrats and vilification of Republicans and willing to believe anything Democrats say, but taking everything Republicans say with a grain of salt. In fact, generally even going against it, even if it ends up being true. It's interesting to me that those on the left are saying, well, we shouldn't be focusing on this. Why would you not believe believe this. How dare you go after Joe Biden when he's got this cancer diagnosis? Maybe we should give it a rest. And that's what David Axelrod said, essentially. So here's the question. What is the upside to defending him at this point? He's politically toxic. He is no longer the president of the United States. He will not run again for president of the United States. Most of the people around him, because of this book, are also going to be toxic. We have this visible mental decline, these terrible approval ratings. He essentially handed the presidency back to Donald Trump. So why could you not go after him a little bit? He should be the villain in this story. So Democrats clearly, I would assume, want to win the House or the Senate or both in 2026. And they'd like to win the White House and both of those chambers in 2028. Do they think that's possible if they continue to deal with this Joe Biden nonsense? Why not get ahead of it and try to investigate it yourselves and be the people that throw him under the bus and then maybe even back the bus up again and then run him over again, because he's not helping you at all. If Trump is the existential threat that they claim he is, why are you still protecting Joe Biden, who handed him the White House back? It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I think this is the moment to clean house. We know that Biden's inner circle knew this stuff. We knew that they knew about the mental decline. I'm going to also assume that they knew about the cancer diagnosis potentially, or at least his wife knew about the cancer diagnosis. I find it very hard to believe that the doctors are that bad that they couldn't catch this cancer. If even one doctor knew about it, I would assume that means Jill and Hunter knew about it. And that's enough of a circle for me to be vilified. But I bet more people knew about it. And again, I know that's speculative. But again, what has Joe Biden been honest about? And I don't believe he's been honest about anything. So it's worth it for the press and Democrats to go after this hammer and tongs and figure out what happened, who knew what, when, and get to the bottom of it. Because here's the thing. If you just look at the mental decline, it would be worth, let's say you're running for president in 2028. You're a Democrat and you have hopes. You're Gavin Newsom. You are, I don't know who else, Gretchen Whitmer. You're Josh Shapiro. You're potentially someone in Congress actually that would be able to do this. I think that would actually be the way to do it, because Congress can actually do some investigatory stuff and subpoenas and things like that. So someone in Congress that wants to run for president, some senator, every senator wants to be president. So some Democratic senator, why would you not realize that, okay, here's what the thing is. In 2028, there's going to be potentially a wide field of people that are running for president. Why not eliminate half of them for covering this up? Because it seems to me you could very easily eliminate Kamala Harris. Because again, there are sort of two options with Kamala Harris. Either the White House did not trust her and they kept her at arm's length because they thought she was maybe actually the bad choice for vice president and didn't trust her to do anything, which is what the book says that was their opinion about her. It's either that. So she's not good enough to be the vice president. Therefore, why would she be good enough to be president? You should get rid of her. Or she knew about Joe Biden's mental decline and decided not to do anything about it. And she saw all this happen before her eyes and didn't think it was a big enough deal to say something. Both of those are bad options. She should be gone, as should every cabinet level member. Okay. Pete Buttigieg should not be able to run in 2028 because he either did not ever have meetings with the president, or he did have meetings with the president and saw this decline and decided it wasn't a big deal. So you can immediately clear the field of a lot of the names that are going to run for president in 2028 by just saying, look, these people got you Donald Trump again by their cover up or their willingness to let the president keep them at arm's length, even though they're cabinet level members. This seems like a problem, right? And I think that Democrats should be the ones saying that, because that eliminates their competition from 2028. It just seems like narrow the field a little bit, right? Anyone who helped cover this up by threatening the press to, when they were going to have stories that were negative about Biden, about relinquishing their access to the White House, for example, all of those people should never get to work in Democratic politics again. That's just what I feel like. And I think that would be, again, in their best interest to get rid of those people and say, look, we are cleaning our own house. This is not us attacking Republicans. This is us cleaning our own house so that Americans can trust us again. Because right now, Democrats don't really have a thing. They're just anti-Trump, but that's obviously not going to work well enough for them. It did not work in 2024. I don't think it will work in 2026 or 2028, even though I do think Trump and Republicans will do a bad enough job. It will instinctively be the thing that people go to the other party for power. But I still think that it would greatly benefit them to clean house a little bit, right? This would be a party trying to regain its moral bearings, because I'm not sure that they have any, or at least that the moral bearings that Democrats think they have are not the same ones that appeal to voters in the United States. It is not the transgender stuff. It is not the racial identity stuff. That is not what people are identifying with. People are not on that same page with the Democrats. This would be an opportunity to try to get on the same page with some of those voters. People to the left of me are claiming that we should be focusing on Trump, not Biden. And I think that's a fair point, I guess, except that Trump is president because of Biden and Democrats. And the media going along with the sort of ridiculous idea that Joe Biden was not getting old right before our eyes. So if Trump is a threat, and I believe that, he was before the election, and I think he still is, I think I've been proven correct on that, then how is backing the narrative now helpful to your future cause? Because if you play this out, okay, the truth is going to come out, right? There's just not a chance that it doesn't on this cancer diagnosis. If the truth really is that he was diagnosed 2 weeks ago, despite having stage 4 cancer at a level that's metastasized to his bone, where he's had it for years, possibly a decade, then the media coming out and calling these conspiracy theories will again just look complicit, and no one's going to believe them going forward, just like they already don't have trust in the media. Trust is just going to further erode. Do they want viewers and readers? I mean, I'm asking this for the press specifically. Do they want to be trusted again, or are they happy being mouthpieces for the Democratic Party exclusively? I think some of them are happy to do the latter, but I would also think that if you, let's say you are a biased journalist and you really want to protect the Democratic Party, how do you feel like this is protecting the Democratic Party? They lost in 2024. The smart move is to vigorously investigate this right now, because if the goal is to be a partisan hack, then the Democratic Party will benefit from abandoning Joe Biden. That's what I've said a long time ago. I think Kamala Harris should have invoked the 25th Amendment after that debate and gotten him out of there, okay? Calling him out for the deception to the American people will help your cause, and it will potentially help Democrats get elected, maybe. So they need to start the process of regaining voter trust right now, because, Democrats should want to know right now who knew what about Joe Biden, not just the mental decline stuff, but the cancer thing as well. They should tell Americans sooner rather than later if Joe Biden was dishonest about this cancer diagnosis, because undoubtedly voters might not trust Democrats again in 2026 or 2028 if there's another cover-up of the cover-up. And let me just be honest here. I don't actually care what Democrats do, other than I would like to see us have two healthier parties, and I believe it will require one of them to behave better to force the other one to do the same via electoral consequences of not being a serious party. And I just believe it's more likely to happen with Democrats right now than Republicans, unfortunately. But look, voters are rejecting the parties in power every 2 years. They are saying, nope, that's not what we wanted. We will try the other party again, and maybe Democrats will be able to win in 2026 and 2028 because Trump and Republicans will screw up bad enough for people to give them another chance. But you can't count on that. But I do think people want honesty. I think they want authenticity from politicians. I think they want government to work well. And I think the first party that actually does a little bit of that will see gains. I think the lesson learned in all of this, 2024, 2020, you got to run good candidates. And one way to do that is to eliminate the people that are going to have this albatross around their neck of potentially either knowing about Biden's mental decline and or his cancer. Get rid of those people, do a little cleaning on your own side, and then maybe Americans will trust you in 2026 or 2028. I'm not necessarily counting on that. I think it's more likely that they just reject Trump again. So what do you think? Am I naive to think that Americans might reward Democrats introspectively looking at their own party and the bad behavior they've done? Or do you think we're too far into tribal politics to possibly say anything bad about our own sides? I'm not really sure. Feel free to politely discuss it in the comments below. Oh yeah, and you've got to like and subscribe. If I don't ask you to do that, they kick me off YouTube. It's just the rules.